Condensed existence, intense experience, quest for excellence, zest about to essence, black renaissance. Son of the sun, raised on calcinated sand, star in flesh and bone, I overstand. Many do not understand my stance. Unsatisfied with circumstances, since you centric sounds resorted to silence some of my senses. I seek to sing with my ancestors' spirits, basic instinct in effervescence. Incandescent stomach like a firefly, I am luminescent. Black cat born to be bovine. I've been searching for space to coma. Unapologetic about my lifestyle, I'm a rebel with a million codes. Me, I'm like a street Somali Kenyan, and I bite life for even O's. Me, my goals be getting mine even when my nose bleed. I'm selfish learning how to climb trees. Redefining time. I'm floating in the midst of whirlwinds. Defying the laws of physics. I don't dream anymore. I lay maps in my I wake up to execute some more, depends on how I feel. But hey, shit happens. If it ain't part of the plan, it is part of the process. I am learning to embrace my tears. Embrace my fears. I'm getting accustomed to the salty taste of my tears.
My name is Jens, and we are Sounding Situations. We are also very happy that we're invited and can perform. It's the first time that we perform this thing, London Records, in East Africa. And we're a collective, so we're sharing responsibilities for doing the research for that project. I've been working with Rwandan artists since 2010. So yeah, I did the research, we did the editing with the stories. Yeah, that's from my side.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I go by the name of One Key, and I'm a performer. People like to call me a poet, which is a part of it. I'm an artist, multidisciplinary. And I met Jens in 2017. He was in Rwanda on another project, and I was doing my personal research about the history of where I come from. I wanted to understand a few things, so I was asking questions to people who are older and trying to understand. And then he was like, "So what are you doing?" And I explained. It's like, "We want to do the same." And then they came back a year later. Then we recorded this, the audios that you hear, and then we decided to put into performance and try something experimental that carries the stories of people who we've heard of, people who are alive as well, because in the future, you know, this is how myth becomes stories. And so we want to we are privileged to be able to carry this on set, on stage, and it's Rwanda and Germany. I'm the only Rwandan, but physically. But in terms of like content and spiritually, I'm accompanied by a lot of people, so that's great. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's interesting. You're going to repeat both your names because they sounded very close to each other, so very quite familiar. So please.
Yeah, my name is Jens.
Yes.
I go by the name of One Key.
1K. Okay. And
Hello, my name is Milena. I'm as well part of the collective from Sonic Situations, and telling a little bit about what we aim. Normally we look for, that's why as well the name is called Sounding Situations, and it's not only theater, but it's a mix of a situation that is created together with the audience, that has a strong audio sound aspect, and then we try to create these situations according to what we are trying to find out, to research. So our performances and shows are always very different, depending on the topic and on who we are talking to, what we are looking for. And yeah, so in this performance we have a space that sounds in different ways, with field recordings and with all the different voices, very quiet voices of people telling their own perspective at the same time, where you have to lean towards it and really listen as a friend. And then you are very personally connected to these voices. And then you share again a collective moment of music and beats and enlightenment with the audience all together. And then you go back to the interview. So it's a whole process that lasts some hours.
wow. Okay, thank you. And
Hello, my name is Klaus Janek. My expertise is composition and music performance. I'm part of the collective. We are based in Hamburg and Berlin, in Germany. And to share this with Rwandan Records, it was quite very interesting, because we could combine Western music with original Rwandan music, where we were offered to work with the phonogram archive from Berlin, and to get into like old sample material, historical music material, which was recorded in the last 100 years. And we could extract and do our own music together, like fusioning together basically Western and Rwandan music.
okay, thank you. So what I find, I think you try to address about it being sounding situations, but then also one of the things that has really caught my attention when I was listening to one of the productions was, okay, actually nearly all the productions, how do you manage to cultivate that kind of ambience when you're working with this? Because I want to believe that it's not necessarily scripted, right? And some of these stories are real, or if not all. I would like to hear your perspective on that, if I misunderstood anything. But for instance, I was listening to 40 Years in Exile, right? 40 Years of Exile. And I'm like, this should be real, right? So I would like to understand how you cultivate that atmosphere. But even besides just cultivating that atmosphere, how do you get these people to trust you with their... Because it sounded very genuine. And some of their opinions, you could say maybe they're unpopular, could be unpopular. So how do you get them to a point that they are comfortable with you and they trust you with what they really think? Yeah, I don't know who would like to answer that.
I can just maybe I can just respond to it, like, yeah. Maybe I can just respond to it with the setting, just to understand what the setting was. So basically, we invited the interview partner and sat in a very cozy place, like a living room kind of situation, and told the people before the recording, during recording, and after recording, whatever they tell, it can be cancelled afterwards, or we don't need to use the material what they are telling when the atmosphere was too cozy for them and they said things what they afterwards didn't want to have published. No? So this was like a very, very open talk and open speech, and a very cozy atmosphere where all the four of us participated with the interview partner.
And about the 40 years of exile, perhaps you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So the 40 years of exile, that's my grandmother. Yeah, and everything she says is true because, and also I think what's interesting in this process is that when you ask people generally about their experience, then they get to open up. I think in some way it's also a form of healing in telling your story. And I think what's great about it is that you're telling to people now and also people in the future. Like right now she passed. And so yesterday there was an auntie of mine here who had never heard of her. And so she was able to connect with the story. And like you said, all the stories are genuine. They're very personal, And so for people to trust us is because we also inspire confidence and trust in that way, in the sense that because like you're saying, it's unpopular opinions mostly because this is very personal. So we try to go deeper and try to understand what is identity beyond the flag, beyond the geographical location, beyond when they point at you like, you this and that, like what do you feel, who are you inside, how do you express yourself, how would you say who you are if people ask you really and they give you maybe. So we took like interviews that minimum about an hour per person, so they would tell a story and then we just chop it up and decide to create different booths that tell stories that maybe are similar or are in the same vein and we try to stay. And then also in the performances we use some of the stories because the idea is storytelling. So basically we start with telling the mythology, right? The idea is as a performer I am telling a story that's 15th century to 2017. So basically we're taking mythology and real stories and incorporating them into the performance. So sometimes you may go into a booth and listen to something, and then when you hear me perform, some of it will come back, some will come in the samples, in the way that the idea is like, how do we tell a story honestly of when people tell the story, and how do we report it without drama, without.
And I would like to add as well, I would like to add that it's not only the genuine way of them telling the story, but it starts by a very genuine way of listening. And that's what we invite as well the audience to do within this setup, by this staged setup, that the people are in a very small, cozy room, being next to the voices. So you have already by the setting an openness to listen, which is what we try to do while we were doing the interviews. So we had a very honest and genuine interest in really listening to whatever they would like to say, and without expecting something.
And we started by doing interviews with ourselves. So we've been also interviewing ourselves, like childhood memories, like how have we got to our political position nowadays and so on. So we practiced on ourselves, opening up and telling intimate details that are not just personal, but which become then political, because the political formates our identity, and this shapes our everyday life. So this was also a practice for us, but it was then not the topic, but the topic was really like documenting Rwandan voices.
Wow, that's interesting. So what inspires the person or the story you tell, and what has been your experience so far between the people who tell the stories and the people you are bringing the story to?
I would say that their stories are revealing things that are sometimes not often talked about. So in all our lives, it's sometimes easier to speak to someone who's outside, to a foreigner, to strangers, and then you reflect yourself, your own position, through the eyes of somebody else. Yeah, and this is also, then you listen to it. That's the position from storytelling, that you open up and that you explain things, and then you recognize yourself in it by telling your own story. And for the ones who are listening, I think it is that there are so many things that resonate. Yeah, so it's curiosity on the one side. How is the other person like thinking? How is he feeling? And that's different, and that's the same with me. So it's always this tension between similarity and things which are new, and this makes the people curious, I think.
Okay, thank you. Is this the first time you are showing at KITF, Kampala International Theatre Festival? Okay, so what has been your experience so far at the Kampala International Theatre Festival? Yeah.
I am completely amazed by by the festival and the hospitality and how everything comes together. It's I have only good words.
Okay. Now, for production, like Welcome, right? Which is the first one that I listened to, and it's also conducted. Okay, I like the aspect that what you've shared, that you get very personal, or like you really create the ambience for them by also first sharing your stories. And I think that's really interesting. But I would like to understand what inspires even simple dialogue like that, because maybe someone would say, for a country like Rwanda, we'll just jump and go to the big themes like the genocide, right? And then we don't think about Maracuze or the greetings and all that. So how do you manage to pick even what seems like the simplest of simplest of the situations, and then you present them like this, and just not entirely focus on what should be dubbed the big. Yeah, I don't know if that's clear.
I think first of all, we were open to. We did not go. I think when the interviews were being conducted in the beginning, we did not have like a plan. Like, this is where specific points that we are looking for. The idea is people tell us the stories, then we have an amount of people telling us the stories, and now it's for us as creatives to decide how do we share these stories. It's like when you're writing an album, for example, you have maybe a song about heartbreak, you're having a song about falling in love, and this is how they are kind of divided. In some, like, you have the mythology, you have exile, you have stories of personal, you have sex tales, you have stories about people dancing, planting coffee and stuff like that. So you're trying to see if there's a like a conductor, like some line conducting in between different stories, and then you address it that way. I think from them. It is something that I learned when I went to Berlin, because this is not usually how we tell stories, right? Like I think on the front is more like in your face. How if somebody's talking about pain, sometimes they would show the pain, or like. We saw some plays where they're showing about like somebody being haunted and you saw like a ghost at the same time. So I think for me, technically, like I learned a lot of stuff about how each part can tell a story in its own way, and then what you add becomes like another flavor to it. So on the picking the smallest things, because also when people are telling those stories, you are learning. So we were open to learn, and then we're like, actually, when they say muraho, because these are also part of the interviews, so we listened, we also paid attention, like, okay, so by the way, when they say this is what it means. And also the introduction, this is how we can introduce the play, for example, and usually lose those little things. And it's the mythology that people have been hearing, that they've been listening to. So it's transmission, basically. You tell me a story and I carry the story, and in my own way, it's also my interpretation of how you told me your story. So yeah,
that's why it's as well called Rwandan Records, because it's records in one hand, the remembrance, the records. Then it's the recordings, like the microphone and the machines, the technical aspect of how how to record samples from 1907 from Rwanda, taking the recordings to Germany, to Belgium, somewhere. So there's a whole power relationship in this, in these records, in these technical records. And then it's the Rwandan records, the album. It's the curated, combined stories that create a bigger story. So the records function in different levels.
There's one thing also. We recorded 30 hours of interviews, and it is 30 hours, and we edited like what you can listen to is 5 hours. Yeah, so it is also that we decided to put this thing in the foreground and make this thing highlighting this thing, and so it's talking about childhood and about food, and then in the background you feel, oh, it's also about the childhood before the genocide and the hatred and everything, but it's a feeling, so it's not directly but you see it through the eyes of a child then. Yeah, so the political content comes not directly in your face, yeah, but you feel it even more. That's my strong belief. Yeah, so it comes stronger, and it's better if you're creating that emotions and you're not playing that emotion on it. Yeah, so it's about creating these different emotions, and this comes through the process of editing the stories and also supported, and then we come to Klaus probably a little bit by editing the soundscapes and editing the music. So the music's got its own musicality, but what we made is by making samples and making a rhythm to the samples, it gets its own character. And probably you talk about the music and the sampling of the old recordings, and yeah, about the character of the music.
Okay, thank you. It's really beautiful.
So it's with music, talking about music, so it's complicated. So basically what we did is we tried to go through the music archive from Rwanda music and find in different songs, like a specificness of what for like a foreigner seems to be like the characteristics. And then good that Eric was also a part of it. So Eric is not at all a foreigner. So we could then share also the experience and how the samples are made and how they are cut and how they are extracted by showing like the richness of the sound, the richness of the music and everything. And Eric and myself, we like 90s hip hop. So I used like old drum machines from the 90s to create the beats and stuff. And so basically the sample from Rwanda and the beats came together and brought what we're doing now. And so this is the music part of the songs, and the soundscape we consider very much also as something musical. So the soundscape, like the initial idea from the soundscape was when we had our apartment. In the mornings I would exit the apartment and just listen into the valley, And at the beginning I didn't hear anything. But then you hear more specific, and then you hear like 1,000 voices which are speaking. And it's almost like a flickering and flimmering of sound, and we tried to create the sound what happens inside with a very low volume of the interviews. Also, this then is encouraging the audience also to, when they have to exchange, when they have to talk together, then to talk quite silent. And the soundscape itself, like this, what is running, I perform it most of the time, and this is like field recordings from Rwanda, from Kigali, what Jens and I did, and plus kind of a cultural soundscape, so including also a bit of music pieces, but also at the level where it almost feels like you're walking through Kigali and somebody has a window opened and listens to music, and this is what you perceive basically. Yeah.
Wow, thank you. I have to applaud you. The recordings are very interesting. I would have loved to even listen to each one of them, but I've not been able to. But so far, so good.
Yeah, the stories will stay alive as long as we keep performing and showing it around the world. So the greatest part about this being in this region is because now some of the people were like family or related from a distance, like you probably can have a sense about, okay, maybe my grandfather also went through the same things, similar things. I think there's a sense of nostalgia, but also a sense of connection, because that's what we want to create. Is the connection between you and the past, and the connection between you and your personal identity. Like, and also to feel like, I think it depends, because for us, we do what we're supposed to do, and then you experience it in your own way, and then people come to tell us, I felt this, I felt that, I felt this. It's about the feelings, what you get from this experience. So for me, I'm really grateful to be a part of it and to have a team that is supportive and that is great to work with. And I'm just excited to see where it's gonna go, to different places around the world, and see what this does to the world itself, actually. Yeah.
Thank you. That's so true, because when I was listening, I was in Rwanda about 2 weeks ago, and I visited the memorial, but I've been there a couple of times, and I couldn't escape. So it's very true what you say about the feelings. Even when the locations are mentioned, you get the nostalgia. So I think you're right. You're right. It comes with the feeling that we get, and then what we absorb, the knowledge we get, like. And I think that's powerful. Also, thank you for mentioning the aspect that if a Syrian refugee, for instance, could relate to it, then that has a lot to say about the world we live in and what's going on in different places. So maybe just one last one before I let you go is, how do you guys keep going? I'm sure there are times it's challenging. Yeah. How do you keep going when the days are hard? I don't know do you guys have bad days? So,
Right now.
so
Right now we're having a hard time.
really?
Let's say it is. I mean, it is like being here in Uganda, being here at the festival and seeing the spirit. Yeah. So there's less money, so to say, for the arts and for festivals. Yeah. But the people here and the artists and everybody is like so dedicated in doing it. That's also quite inspiring. Yeah. So we complain, and times are getting harder for artists in Germany and Europe, because there's less money for arts and more money for the military. And yeah, we're working on it, but being here and getting inspired by this, by the Ugandan artists, this is, it's like, okay, that's why we are here and that's why we're doing art. And to get also to speak to Ugandan people and saying, well, there's a transformative power that art has. And this is like, it can help transform society, reflect on things that science or politics cannot do. Yeah. So we've got a task to do as artists. And this, there's a job we've got to do. Yeah, and this also is a good feeling. And this, like the big perspective, keeps also going on hard days.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, for me, I would just say that when at the end of the performance, when people come to you and they look into your eyes and they tell you what they're feeling, what they're experiencing, for me, that's pretty much the satisfaction I get a lot from it. And it feels like, okay, maybe I'm doing something meaningful, with my time being on this planet. It won't be like I've been wasting my life, So that's really something that keeps me going. Because there's moments where you have doubts, you have imposter syndrome, like everybody goes through it as a performer, as an artist. But the fact that it feels... And also you could be sitting somewhere and people are talking about the performance. Because usually like we don't look the same when we're off stage, right? People will just be talking sometimes like that guy, or that performance, or this moment. And it feels like it's really... Because what we do is food for the soul, right? It nourishes something in them that uplifts somehow who they are, the experience. And I feel like, I'm doing something and I'm happy about it. Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you so much to Kampala International Theatre Festival, because a lot of people wouldn't take a chance on us. First of all, it's hard to explain. And then second of all, of course, there's a budget and all these things. People have to travel with kids and everything. And so to be like, come show us what it's really great. So we very much appreciate. And the hospitality is amazing. We're in a great hotel and everybody's supportive. The volunteers, the tech team, the media, everyone is really supportive. And so we can only be grateful. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Last one from you. Is it okay?
Well, I mean, it's wonderful to be here. This is amazing. As Eric says, like then afterwards, after the performance, and see all the reactions is amazing. But also, like in the same time, have the possibility, opportunity to give and to learn and to get and to just understand like the world where we are in. It's not just home in Berlin, and this is such a mind opener, eye opener, to travel, whatever. Like I could travel in different countries, China and stuff, but also like the Kigali travel. When we did the research, was the first for me in Africa. I really love it, and it just opens my mind. I have to unlearn, and I'm very thankful to unlearn and to relearn, and this is really good.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. So thank you very much, all of you. And that was wait a minute. Sounding Situations in Random Records. Thank you so much for having us, and we're so delighted to have you all. Once again, Kampala International Theatre Festival, the 11th edition. This is the 11th year, so see you next year. Ciao, ciao.